3 albums, 42 songs, one man drowning in his own ice water. And the strangest part isn't that Drake dropped a triple project on the world. The strangest part is what those 42 songs accidentally confessed when nobody asked them to. Stop. Rewind. Before anyone tells you who won, who lost, who was disappointed, who fell asleep on stream, let me show you something that every single reactor missed. Every podcast host, every shocked fan, every commentator who pulled an all-nighter trying to make sense of Iceman, Maid of Honor, and the third one nobody can even remember the name of. They all looked at the surface. They all argued about the songs. They all weighed in on the production. And in doing that, they completely walked past the real story buried at the center of this rollout. Because this wasn't a music release. This was a confession booth disguised as a victory lap. It was a man emptying out a junk drawer and asking us to call it a gallery. It was a 42-track plea bargain set to a snare. Lock in, because once you see what I'm about to lay out, you will never look at this album cycle the same way again. I'm not here to dunk for the sake of dunking. I'm not here to play hater bingo. I'm here to walk you through the architecture of the strangest self-inflicted wound the rap industry has watched in real time. And by the time we hit the last bar of this video, you're going to realize that nobody in any reaction stream, any podcast, any Twitter thread has actually told you what is really happening. They're describing the smoke. I'm walking you into the kitchen where the fire started. They're naming the symptoms. I'm handing you the diagnosis. Let's start with the room nobody wanted to walk into. Shane Gillis. Episode 4 of Iceman. Shane is sitting there, comfortable, smirking, performing a little skit like it's just another bit on the road. But peel one layer back and the situation gets ugly fast. This is the same Shane Gillis who years ago, on a podcast that's still floating around the internet like a ghost, looked into a camera and said the most damning sentence anyone's ever publicly aimed at Drake. He said the man likes him young. He said the man is going to get caught in the next 5 years. He said it casually like he was forecasting the weather. And then, somehow, in the year of our Lord 2026, this same comedian shows up inside a Drake-funded visual album, doing skits, getting a paycheck, sitting one camera move away from Drake's own teenage son. Read that again, slowly. The man who publicly predicted Drake's downfall is now being paid to perform inside Drake's universe. Either Shane is laughing all the way to the bank, or Drake genuinely does not understand what people have been saying about him for half a decade. There is no third option. Pick one. Either way, the optics melt the second the camera turns on. Either way, somebody in that room is the punchline, and the camera is rolling either way. And that's just minute 1. We have not even reached the music yet. We have not even pressed play on the part that's supposed to be the actual product, and already the rollout has handed us a contradiction so loud you can hear it across the room. Already the casting choices alone are doing more damage than any diss track Kendrick could ever cook up. Because the second you press play on the second project, who shows up? Future. Yes, that Future. The same Future who quietly slid himself onto the most damaging diss record in modern rap history. The same Future who took the bag, took the writing credit, took the silence, and then watched Kendrick turn his living room into a national anthem. And now, Drake calls him back. Drake reaches across the broken bridge and brings the same man into his studio, into his rollout, into the most important release of his career. Tell me, with a straight face, who needed who in that phone call? Tell me, looking at the math, who was begging? Because when you have to invite back the man who helped torch your throne, the throne wasn't yours to begin with. And then, and this is the part that snaps the spine of the whole moment, the song is literally titled around running back to Atlanta. He named the track after the very line Kendrick used to embarrass him. He took the bullet, polished it, and stitched it to his own jacket. Then he asked us to call it a flex. That's not a comeback. That is a tattoo of your own L. That is a man walking into the courtroom and reading the prosecution's opening statement on his own behalf. And the worst part is, he thinks he's being clever. He thinks he's reclaiming the line. But you cannot reclaim a knife while it's still buried in your back. You can only point at it and pretend it was a piercing. You can only smile through the wince and hope the camera doesn't zoom in. But maybe none of that registered. Maybe you still want to give the project a chance. Cool, let's keep going. Because the deeper you dig, the louder the confession gets. The deeper you dig, the clearer it becomes that this album isn't a body of work, it's a body of evidence. And every track is a fingerprint at the scene. Track after track, it's the same ghost. Different beat, Different feature, different mood, same haunting. There's a moment on this album where he hops onto a beat that sounds like it was kidnapped from a Bay Area block party, dipped in Mac Dre's spirit, and waved around like a war flag. The internet wants to call it homage, but homage doesn't show up wearing this much cologne. Homage doesn't arrive the same week your rival has the entire West Coast in a chokehold. Homage doesn't tiptoe onto a hyphy beat right after another artist made the whole country chant a song that ends with you running for cover. This wasn't a tribute, this was a costume. Drake stepped into a sound he doesn't live in, with a flow he doesn't own, on a coast he just lost, and he handed everyone a side-by-side comparison to a song called Squabble Up that already exists, already won, already lives on highway speakers from Oakland to Inglewood. Why would you volunteer for that comparison? Why would you walk into the lion's den wearing a meat suit? Why would you walk onto a stage that already has chalk outlines from your last performance? You don't pay homage to a legend by using his beat to throw a rock at your enemy. You pay homage by leaving the man's name out of your fight. Rest in peace to Mac. The man deserved a tribute. He didn't deserve to be repurposed as ammunition in a feud he never asked to join. The answer is the part nobody wants to say out loud. The answer is the elephant standing in the middle of every track. The answer is the thing your favorite podcaster will dance around for 40 minutes because saying it costs them their invite to the next listening party. Saying it costs them the chain. Saying it costs them the access. So they say nothing. I'm not them. He couldn't help himself. He physically, mentally, spiritually could not let this go. Every song, every verse, every interlude, every skit, it all comes back to one man, one album, one Super Bowl performance, one halftime show that played in front of more humans than any rap moment in history. Kendrick Lamar is no longer a rapper to Drake. Kendrick Lamar is a tenant, a permanent one. He has built a guest house inside Drake's frontal lobe, and he's not paying rent. He's not leaving. He has hung up photos. He has installed a satellite dish. He gets mail there now. The mailman knows the address. The neighbors wave. The HOA has stopped asking questions. The guy at the corner store knows his coffee order. He's been there long enough to vote in local elections. Listen carefully on the track where Drake mutters that he doesn't remember a single word of his rivals. 42 songs, and that's the lie he picks? That is the bar he wants to die on? The man who allegedly cannot recall a single lyric is the same man whose entire triple album is a forensic response to those exact lyrics. He referenced Atlanta because of one line. He referenced bot farms because of one accusation. He referenced the Big Three because of one verse. He set fire to a fake server room on screen because 2 years ago he lost an argument about streams. 2 years, 730 days, 17,520 hours, and still the man cannot sleep. Still the wound throbs. Still the dreams replay the same chorus. Still the algorithm finishes the sentence for him every time he opens his notes app. Still the mirror talks back in someone else's voice. That brings us to the angle nobody in any reaction video bothered to chase. Everyone wants to talk about the songs. Everyone wants to grade the rollout. Everyone wants to laugh at the features. But here's what I'm telling you that nobody else has the guts to type out plainly. This album is not a Drake album. This album is a court filing in musical form. It is the same lawsuit he filed and lost, but converted into auto-tune. Every claim he tried to argue in front of a judge, the inflated streams, the conspiracy, the bots, the redacted names, the wronged man narrative, every single one of those failed legal arguments has been laundered into a verse, a visual, a skit, a metaphor on this rollout. The case got tossed, so he opened a recording booth and filed the appeal there. Same lies, new beat. And the moment you see it, you can't unsee it. Bot farm visual? That's a paragraph from the complaint. The redacted Epstein bar aimed at Jay-Z? That's a tip line call he tried to dress up as evidence. The Ping's tweet about 100 million streams vanishing? That came from a Twitter account whose own bio literally says everything posted is satire. He sang fan fiction into a microphone and called it journalism. He turned a meme account into a citation. He pulled the receipts from a parody page and held them up like a Supreme Court brief.
He read The Onion and quoted it as the morning news. That's the move. That's the trick. That's the rollout. He didn't release 3 albums. He released 3 rebuttals. And the most damning thing about a rebuttal is that you can only have one if you already lost the original argument. You don't write a defense to a verdict that landed in your favor. You don't appeal a win. You appeal a loss. The very existence of 42 songs about one man is the legal admission that the original case is dead and buried. 42 is a number with grammar. 42 means it still hurts. Now let's get to the bodies, because reactors, real reactors, people who built their careers off being in Drake's corner, they're the ones who broke this album for the public, not the haters. Watch what happens when a true fan tells the truth on stream. Plaque Boy Max, a man whose room looks like a snow globe, a man who's worn the cosign on his sleeve for a decade plus, sits in front of his camera with that frozen smile every disappointed fan eventually wears, and he says it out loud. There aren't enough standout songs. He says it like he's apologizing to a friend who can't hear him. He pivots, tries to soften it, tries to give the man another listen, but the words already escaped, the damage already done. And once one fan says it, the floodgates crack. Once one loyalist breaks formation, the rest of the army starts looking around to see who else is leaving. Once one igloo door swings open, the whole frozen kingdom feels the draft. NFR podcast, OVO shirts in the frame. The room is practically a Drake fan club. And what do they say? He's lost his ear for melody. The hooks aren't catchy. The vocals are smothered in auto-tune. This is what loyalty sounds like when it finally exhales. Then DDG's brother Dub. 12 tracks out of 41, not even 1 in 3. 12. From a man whose family has been singing Drake records on live streams for years. And the deepest cut of all? Academics, the most loyal hype machine in the building, the man who got handed the chain on camera like a wedding ring, fighting sleep, fighting sleep, fighting sleep through his own boy's project. You don't fake those eyelids. You don't engineer that yawn. That was a man losing consciousness in real time while pretending the music was keeping him alive. That was a hostage video set to ambient lo-fi. 3 teaspoons of NyQuil, 4 tabs of melatonin, a fresh chain around the neck, and still, sleep was winning. When your hype men fall asleep at the show is over. When the lifeguard drowns, the pool is closed. When the cheerleader yawns at halftime, the team has already lost. When the choir falls asleep mid-hymn, the church is just a building. And here's where I drop the angle nobody else even sniffed at. This whole rollout isn't about Kendrick. It isn't really about the beef. It isn't even about the music. Strip away the surface, and what you're watching is the cleanest example of a contract liquidation we've ever seen happen in plain daylight. Every one of these projects is signed under Republic. Every one feeds Lucian. Every stream, every spin, every disappointed Sunday morning playlist gets cashed in by the same machine. Drake is dumping inventory. He is unloading albums the way a tenant breaks a lease, by trashing the place on the way out. 3 albums in one night isn't artistry. It's not a flex. It's not a Frank Ocean impression. It's a man burning through the remainder of a deal so he can finally walk into the next chapter without UMG holding the leash. He isn't making music. He is paying rent in songs. He is settling a tad with a track list. He is checking out of a hotel by emptying the minibar onto the carpet. He is closing a bank account by writing every dollar in a song. That's why the quality dipped. That's why the choruses feel like ChatGPT in a hoodie. That's why even the loyal fans came out of the listening session looking like they'd survived something. He didn't want to make these albums. He needed to make these albums. There's a difference, and it lives in every flat hook, every uninspired feature, every diss aimed at the same man he says he doesn't remember. Need music and want music sound different. Need music has bills attached. Want music has soul attached. And every track on this rollout is wearing an invoice. Every chorus comes with a receipt taped to the back.
So now let's talk about the people he tried to take down with him on the way out. Because if you're already burning the building, why not torch the neighbors? DJ Khaled, cooked. Rick Ross, roasted. A$AP Rocky, sliced into a corner of a verse. Jay-Z, he pulled the redaction card. He tried to whisper Epstein into a bar like it was real evidence, knowing full well the only thing linking those names was a phone call from a stranger who probably also believes the moon is a hologram. He didn't fact check. He never fact checks. He scrolls, he screenshots, he repurposes. Twitter is his research library, and Wikipedia is his fact checker. That's why his lawsuit imploded. That's why his bars don't land. He builds his attacks on the same foundation his case stood on: vibes, rumors, and the hope that nobody Googles. Hope is not a strategy. Vibes are not a courtroom. Twitter is not discovery. A screenshot is not a subpoena. And let me say the thing about J. Cole that needs to be said. Because Cole tucked his head, stepped off, took the high road, and what did he get for it? Both of these men ended up disrespecting him anyway. Kendrick has alluded. Drake has now openly tapped him on the shoulder and reminded him of the friendship he abandoned. Cole, my man, the silence didn't save you. The retreat didn't save you. You should have just rapped. You should have just swung. You were gonna get hit either way. At least pick up the gloves before the bell rings. There is no neutral country in a war that personal. The Switzerland strategy only works if both sides agree you exist. They didn't. They never were. They wrote you back into the story without your permission. They named you in the chorus. They listed you in the credits of a war you tried to skip. Now look at the receipts piling up. The lyrics borrowing Kendrick's structure. The flows borrowing Kendrick's cadence. The phrasings echoing Kendrick's quotables. The Big Three reference. The fake jewelry of mentioning Young Money on a project where Young Money doesn't appear. The braids, the trips, the vocabulary. It's not a coincidence. It's a syllabus. The man read the book and underlined the chapters, and then he tried to publish it as his own thesis. He copied the homework, changed the font, and turned it in as original work. The teacher already noticed. The class already noticed. Only the student is still pretending nobody saw. And speaking of Young Money, let's sit with that bar for a second longer than anyone else has. He name-dropped them on a project they did not appear on. He summoned a brand of loyalty he himself has not visibly extended to the people he claimed to be summoning. There were 42 opportunities to give a feature, a verse, a cosign, a moment, an inch of spotlight to the family he was invoking. He gave them 0. He used the name, kept the shine, and walked off. That is a flag waved without an army behind it. That is a battalion announcement with one soldier on the field, and the soldier is tired, and the flag is on backwards, and the wind is stopped blowing. So who is the Iceman now? Because looking at this rollout, the Iceman is a guy in the middle of a Toronto winter holding 3 albums full of regrets, sweating in his own metaphor, watching the snow melt around him while the entire industry pretends not to notice he's shrinking. The cube melted, the pyramid cracked. The hard drive inside it never spelled victory, it spelled vacancy. He spent his rollout punching ghosts, and his ghosts kept multiplying. He spent his rollout staring into a frozen reflection, and the reflection blinked first. He spent his rollout naming himself a cold-blooded king while the temperature outside kept dropping on him alone. And here's the part that should chill every fan still holding the flag. He's going to do this again. He's going to drop the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and Kendrick is going to live in every bar of every project until he hangs up the pen. Kendrick built a guest house, remember? He's never moving out. There are 42 songs of evidence that the lease is permanent. There is a Mac Dre beat full of evidence. There is a Future feature full of evidence. There is a Bot Farm cartoon full of evidence. The man cannot stop confessing in 808s. The man cannot stop tagging the body in the studio every time the red light turns on. The man writes the same letter in different ink and mails it to himself. 2 years. 2 years of trying to wrestle a moment back that already belongs to someone else. 2 years of replaying the same loss in different keys. 2 years of mistaking volume for victory. And the cruelest part, the part history will remember, is that the louder he gets, the smaller he sounds. Because the only way to lose a beef in slow motion is to keep proving you lost it every 12 months on a new track list.
The footage doesn't lie. The streams don't lie. The Super Bowl numbers don't lie. The cultural temperature doesn't lie. The only thing lying is the man trying to drown the silence with 3 albums of overcompensation. There is a version of this story, and I want you to imagine it for a second, where Drake never opens his mouth again about this beef, where he releases one tight project, no skits, no ice sculptures, no sealed envelopes, no court document choruses, just music, just confidence, just craft. In that version, he reclaims something. In that version, the conversation shifts. In that version, the headline is the art, not the autopsy. But he didn't pick that version. He picked this one. He picked 3. He picked 42. He picked Pinocchio in a scope. He picked the man who once predicted his downfall as a guest star. He picked the very rival who beat him as the silent muse of every verse. And the universe filed those choices into a folder labeled Exhibit A. The universe doesn't lose paperwork. So let me leave you with the one comparison that no podcaster, no commentator, no half-asleep reactor has dared to make out loud. Because once you hear it, the whole rollout collapses to a single, brutal image. Imagine a boxer who lost a championship fight on a unanimous decision in front of the entire world. Imagine that same boxer, instead of going back to the gym, instead of rebuilding his stance, instead of studying the tape, decides to print 42 t-shirts with his rival's face stamped across the chest, walk around the city wearing them one at a time, and call that procession a victory tour. That is this rollout. That is Iceman. That is Maid of Honor. That is whatever the third project was even called. 3 full closets of merchandise printed in someone else's likeness. A wardrobe of defeat dressed up as a brand. And the boxer keeps pointing at the shirts, saying, "You see this? You see this? This is my comeback. This is my redemption arc." Meanwhile, his rival is at home, lights dimmed, in a quiet studio, watching from a distance, deciding when, if, and how to even respond. That is the math. That is the temperature. That is the only picture you need to carry away from this entire conversation. So when somebody asks you what happened with this triple drop, don't tell them about the songs. Don't tell them about the features. Don't tell them about the reactors falling asleep on camera. Tell them this. Tell them Drake didn't release 3 albums. He released a 42-track diary, sealed in marketing, slapped his mother's face on the cover, and asked the world to applaud the autopsy. Tell them the Iceman wasn't melting. He was already water. Tell them the only person who didn't know the verdict was the man delivering it. Tell them the loudest sound on that album wasn't a bar. It was a man trying to scream over a silence he created himself. Tell them the silence won. And tell them one more thing. Tell them this was never going to be a comeback. It was a long, public, beautifully produced surrender, and we all bought tickets to the funeral wearing party hats. We showed up in our best outfits. We refreshed our feeds. We held our breath. And what we got was a man burying himself in real time and asking us to call it a christening. The eulogy wrote itself. The candles burned to nothing. The casket had a hi-hat. If this opened your eyes even a little, drop a comment with the one bar from this whole rollout that made you cringe the hardest. Don't be polite. Don't sugarcoat. Type it loud. Tap that like so the algorithm shows this to the next person still convinced this album was a win. And if you want to see what happens next, because trust me, the next chapter is uglier than this one, there is another video sitting right next to this one that picks up where this leaves off. Click it, watch it, then come back and tell me whether the Iceman ever stood a chance.
The pyramid cracked, the cube melted, the man kept rapping, and the snow keeps falling on a kingdom that doesn't exist anymore. The throne is empty, the crown is plastic, the kingdom was rented, and the lease just expired. The map says he's still standing, the mirror says he's already gone. The choir stopped singing, the audience stopped clapping, the story stopped pretending. Somewhere in a quiet, dark room, a quieter man is sharpening a sharper pen, taking notes, taking his time, and waiting for the right cue.